Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar news update video. So a bunch of stuff to talk about, a lot of comic stuff here. We do have a Netflix Avatar update and some merchandise stuff as well. So we'll start off with just some reminders about this. So of course, big one, next upcoming release for Avatar and Korra is finally the first Korra one-shot comic, The Mystery of Pension Island. The Mako one-shot comic is out in just 5 days. March 4th/5th is the release date for this book at long last. So just as a reminder to everyone about this, hey, be aware you can get this book starting next week. I'll have coverage on this, like a spoiler review. We'll do a podcast. We'll be building up to a live stream. So we'll have time to discuss this, of course. Also be aware that just 3 weeks after that, the next Avatar comic is actually out. So this is Ashes of the Academy, one-shot for Avatar number 6. It is a May-focused one-shot comic. And yeah, March 25th/26th for this. So we get through all of the currently announced new mainline releases for Avatar in just the space of a couple of weeks, leaving us open, awaiting a bunch of announcements. Now, we did get some Dark Horse announcements, but they're not the new books we expected. First of all, Team Avatar Treasury Omnibus Edition has been announced. Note, we actually didn't know about this book before, but we expected it. We've already had the Team Avatar Treasury weird box set collection where it was the 3 standard books in a box. We've already had the Team Avatar Treasury Library Edition, which is the big library edition with annotations and extras and stuff like that. This is the Omnibus Edition, where we're back down at the smaller form factor, but it is the 3 books in one. And you still get most of the extras, just no annotations. So this is a nice kind of value proposition version of the book. And this one is out November 11th, 2025. So it's a bit late in the year, obviously. I wouldn't read into that too much just because I still think books will be announced in the coming months that will actually release before this. It's the difference between them knowing exactly what they're doing with these reprint books where, the book's already done. They just have to, get it into a different form factor versus completely brand new books where sometimes problems can come up. So, we could see new books announced just like 4 or 5 months before release or something like that. Look at Ashes of the Academy. That's out in a few weeks and it was only announced back in October versus this one clearly is getting announced 9 months before release. So, there's still room for some announcements, definitely. Definitely confirms, obviously, that they're trying to do all the different formats for basically all the different types of books. So now this is the one-shot comics, standard edition, omnibus, and hardcover are all coming out. And we now know that the Azula comic, basically, the June and Iroh comic, and Ashes of the Academy, the next 3 are going to get a similar collection like this. I wonder what they're going to call it. Fire Nation something or other is probably going to be my guess. And it will also get a hardcover and an omnibus. So depending on what way you're doing your collection, you will be able to do that. Speaking of collections, we also have this. This book is also coming out soon. This is the Avatar The Last Airbender Omnibus box set, trade paperback. This is out March 11th, 2025. This book is just a collection of the first 5 Avatar comic trilogies in their omnibus format in a box. Apparently comes with a poster as well. I'm not sure if that's confirmed or not, but some of the Edelweiss listing says there is a poster. They haven't really been super public about this. Why doesn't it include Imbalance? I'm guessing it's some sort of thing where because it is a switch in creative team, maybe it's viewed that way. I don't really understand it because as we get into maybe the main event piece of news here in terms of the comics, they've announced this deluxe Dark Horse Direct product. Avatar The Last Airbender Omnibus Ultimate Box Set Hardcover. So very clearly to a certain degree, this is meant to be this high-end equivalent of this mainline product release. Because it is the same 5 books. The Promise to Search, The Rift, Smoke and Shadow, North and South, collected in a box. But this is a hardcover omnibus set, and based on the product sizes, my takeaway from the fact that the length is like over 30 centimeters is that these books are basically library editions, but they don't have the annotations. Because if you scroll through the pictures, and we get to one of the ones where they show the interior of one of the comics, you can see here, it doesn't have the annotations. It's obviously a hardcover book. So is that the kind of uniqueness of this product? Is that what they're doing here? Because that's the only way the 30 centimeter thing makes sense. Because otherwise the omnibus editions are the same size as a normal Avatar comic, and it's definitely not that tall. And the box isn't making it that much bigger. So I do think this is effectively a box of hardcovers just done in this format overall. It's a premium box set. Slipcases with gold foil highlights, exposed spine for each book. It also comes with a portfolio, and it costs €243, $250 basically, and you do have to order it from Dark Horse direct. I'm assuming shipping for this to international countries is going to be a bit all over the place based on the way they describe how this stuff works. So if you do want it, and you're not from the right region, it might be a bit of a challenge. And it is going to be releasing in March, so it's coming out the same month as this. Obviously, the pricing differences is that like the other one costs twice as much as this one. And also keep in mind, when this actually releases, certain retailers are probably going to have this for, I think, a decent bit cheaper than this. So do keep that in mind. Whereas this is always going to be this price because it's from Dark Horse Direct. So a lot of that stuff out of the way. Let's talk about this. So I'll just move this over a little bit so you can see it a bit clearer. As someone who has multiple copies of like all of the Avatar comics, like I have the original releases for like The Promise Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. I have the library editions. I have the omnibus editions. I feel like the target audience for different editions of these comics. This does nothing for me whatsoever. I really don't see where the appeal necessarily is. Obviously, there's going to be more of an appeal if you don't have physical copies of these comics. If you have waited all this time and have never picked up the comics, this might be actually the form factor that you want. But I think there are still a bunch of issues. One, straight away, it has the same problem that this box set has, which is, why is it only why is it only 5 out of 6 of the actual Avatar comic trilogies? I get it. A creative team switch happens going from North and South into Imbalance. The first 5 books are Gene Yang and Team Gurihuru, and so to a certain degree, it's their collection as is with 5 books. But it's weird to leave out the others, especially when, with the Omnibus thing, the normal omnibus, the Imbalance omnibus is part of the Spine Image set. It has the small little corner of Aang's cloak and stuff like that on it. It's part of this set. So leaving that out, I think, feels very odd to me, because straight away you buy this. You know there is another comic after this. It's like the only one to complete the set of 6. And the question immediately comes up, are you planning to do an Imbalance one separately that matches up with this? But then the box set clearly isn't big enough to hold it. So even if you do it separately, it's separate. It's not really part of this set. And it just feels like inherently there is a miss. I really want to know what the reasoning behind Imbalance being left out is. Is it some weird, like, almost like licensing thing or contracts about, like, reprinting these books with, like, you know, Gene Yang and then the new creative team or something like that, where, because, like, one of them did, like, 5 of the books and one only does 1 of the books, like, they're not allowed to be kind of, like, advertised, like, side by side or something like that. I don't really know. But it makes this product, I think, a whole lot less kind of interesting. I also would say, just from a sort of presentation standpoint as well, I don't even think they look that great. This very much, to me, falls into the category of they're trying to be fancy, but I don't really think it comes off as fancy as they maybe think it does. Like, okay, it's got gold foil all over it, but also half of the front cover doesn't feature comic art. And then it feels like an entire quarter of the cover doesn't feature anything. Like, I think they don't make great use of the space here, and they just feel it being, I guess, golden brown makes it, like, super inherently fancy, when I think I prefer so many of the other presentations of like covers. Like the original Omnibus covers are very clean with the white effect and stuff like that. The original covers have their own appeal for the individual parts. So this idea that like you just have half of it for title presentation and then you just kind of crop either a cover or an interior panel to make into the new kind of cover image thing really doesn't do it for me, unfortunately. I'm not a fan of this, given that it's meant to be the deluxe ultimate edition set. Like if you could get new art, this is where you should have new art. These insert images should be like, I think, specifically crafted pieces of art that fit that size format, if that's how you want the covers to be, not just cropped images. The same goes for this. This is not a new piece of art. The spine of the image here, I think, is kind of nice, but that's maybe the best. Obviously, they're going for the technique of having no spine on it, which I guess makes these as hardcover books a little bit easier to read, because when you do open the actual library editions, it does feel like you're doing damage to the book to a certain time. I guess it's maybe a bit easier there. But it also takes away some of that interesting appeal that something like this has, because it does have the spine image on the spines, whereas this doesn't even have a spine, which is a bit awkward. And then the fact that it comes with a lithograph in a folio, like the deluxe edition sets that we've had for the art books and so on, and apparently Beast of the Four Nations is going to get. This just feels very copy-paste. Like you've just taken the fancy thing from the deluxe set and you're doing it here for the ultimate set. And it's just the part 1 omnibus cover as a print in a little folio fold-over thing. And again, I've always felt like in those deluxe sets, this is the definition of being fancy for the sake of being fancy without really adding too much to the product. Whereas I think there's other ways to make these things a bit cooler. It's interesting, but I think there's some weird decisions and selections made kind of across the board. Maybe if I could see these in person, I'd feel a little bit differently about them. But I already have so many versions of this. This doesn't do anything for me, and I'm roughly open to, I think, getting a new edition of one of these books if it does something interesting enough, and I don't think that's necessarily here. I would say the best appeal about this, if those product dimensions are actually correct, and it is like basically this is the hardcover but effectively without the annotations, that's probably the appeal of these books for me, rather than any of this like fancy for the sake of fancy kind of stuff going on. That'd be kind of my take on it. So I'll have a link in the description if anyone is actually interested in this, but this is definitely a no for me. Like they just, I think there's too much that I think is a problem, and I do think the big problem is the imbalance issue. For whatever reason, it not being here, I just think takes away a bunch of the kind of collector's aspect of this for me, because there's only one other mainline trilogy, and it's not here. And the only thing I can think of is something related to the fact that the creative team changes between the two of them, and for whatever reason, they can't just say Gene Yang, Team Gurihuru, Faith Erin Hicks, and Peter Wortman. I'm not really sure what the situation is. Maybe someone does. I've not seen it yet, because I didn't see anyone explain why this set doesn't have it either. And I don't think there's an explanation on this one at the same time. But yes, let's get into this again. Just to highlight, the Dark Horse announcements that we are looking for are whenever they announce this new comic mini-series. That's going to be super interesting. Like, is that ATLA? Is it Korra? Is it something else? Completely new, unexpected, in a completely new format. There's a lot of potential with this announcement. Something new that's not one-shots. That's cool. And then new illustrated hardcover, hopefully Beast of the Four Nations. Please, and I hope it doesn't take too long to get to these announcements. So that's that. Then we get to the Netflix news. So, the This is an article from What's on Netflix, I think mainly reporting on information from Production Weekly. But the details here are that, season 3 is set to start their production, basically. It's confirmation of stuff like, yes, they are filming Netflix Avatar season 2 and 3 basically back to back, with the main headline being that, yeah, they're going to take a short break after filming season 2 before going into season 3. The details are that season 2 is going from October 24 to March 21st, 2025. So in just a few weeks, they're going to end kind of filming on season 2. Then they're going to wait 2 months and dive back into it on May 26th for season 3. And then after that, they're going to wrap up season 3 filming, hopefully August 1st. Now, this could slightly change as we actually get closer to these dates, but the idea is that this show is planned to basically wrap up all of its filming, because season 3 is like the last season, this year, well before the end of the year. Still, of course, lots of post-production stuff to be done, of course. That's going to be a lot of the time on this show, a lot of CG work to be done. Hopefully it'll be easier without using the volume, so that's going to be interesting. They also have directors here. You can see here have been announced, I think highlighting that they're probably going to be doing 2 each. We don't know how many episodes the season is going to be. We assume it's going to be 8 again, but that actually hasn't been confirmed. But I assume if there was more, they would announce that, because I think a lot of people, including myself, want there to be more episodes, because I do think to succeed at book 2, you just need more time. Season 1 needed more time, and book 2 is definitely going to need more time. Maybe they can get around that with 8 slightly longer episodes or something like that, but I'm not sure. I think they just need more episodes, is honestly my thoughts. Otherwise, they just have speculation about when they think we might actually see the next season. They speculate it'll be end of 2026, maybe 2027 if things don't go as smoothly. That'd probably be roughly my guess, is that, like, yeah, I don't think we're seeing this early 2026, but like, yeah, maybe mid to late 2026 if things do go well. But the idea is that, yeah, this is going to be the big break for this show now that it's begun. Sees the gap between season 1 and 2, because they waited to confirm season 2 and 3 until after the reception to season 1. There was always going to be that break as they kind of had to ramp up production again. There's also going to be, I guess, a built-in time skip at the start of season 2 to account for this, because the actors are going to be like a bunch of years older. But it means that there's obviously going to be the consistency then for season 2 and 3, because they are filming them back to back. So the characters will more naturally kind of age over the course of those 2 seasons, rather than the big jump they're going to have to do. So that's the Netflix Avatar update. If you've been waiting for it, I'm assuming we'll get more casting information as time goes on, and we'll get more of a sense for what episodes are being covered and are not being covered. And then especially once we get the episode count, that should be quite helpful for speculation. So there's that. Then we get into the last piece of news, and that is these. So let me just move this over a little bit. These are, of course, the Ultimate Guard Avatar The Last Airbender Squaroes deck boxes. So, of course, on the Avatar Anniversary Day, the big announcement was, of course, Avatar Magic the Gathering set coming November. Also kind of announced subtly alongside it was these deck boxes. Now, what's interesting, the set is out in November, but these, of course, are just general TCG products. They just happen to be Avatar branded. These are coming out in just a few weeks, because they were selling them at the convention, the Magic convention. So we have the kind of full product lineup here. So there are 9 deck boxes, and then 1 APA collector's case that can store 8 of these deck boxes, or you can just use it to store your cards if you want to. It's basically a giant different type of deck box, where this is more kind of fabric-y, and these ones, of course, are plastic. So the Squaroes is, of course, the idea that the character is the deck box rather than just like art on a deck box. They all look kind of cool, because you can see like the arms on the side. It's kind of cute, and it makes it feel, I think, quite unique. I actually like these because they're so odd and different compared to like a lot of companies who pick up the Avatar license and they do their own weird brand of like chibified character. I think these stand out a little bit more, because especially if you're into TCGs and will be able to make use of these for what they are, deck boxes, they're pretty nice, I think. I already have the Aang and the Cabbage Merchant pre-ordered, because I'm planning to, I think, go quite hard in on the the Magic set when it comes out in November, and it's always good to have deck boxes. I'm guessing if I like the way these two feel in person when I get them, I'll probably gradually pick up the other ones over the course of the coming months and hopefully get the full set. Not sure I'm going to get the big Avatar collector case here, but you know, who knows? That's the big thing there. Only other thing really to say, because you can see the lineup here, is Zuko, Toph, Katara, Iroh, Aang, Momo, Cabbage Merchant, Sokka, and Azula. The Cabbage Merchant, I believe, is a chase version. Now, I'm a little bit confused about like if there is a chase version or just he is the chase version. I think the idea that like the big box holds 8 of them, but there are technically 9. Cabbage Merchant is the one that's listed as AV009. So I think the idea is just that they're in a set, like in the boxes that they come into the stores. There's just less of the Cabbage Merchant than the other one. So if you are maybe planning to maybe gradually get these over time, maybe focus on getting the Cabbage Merchant first, just because he might be the most difficult one to get. But I don't really know what the full situation is, but still very, very cool. I'll do a video on my first few when I do get them. Not exactly sure when that's going to be, but it'll be sometime in March or April. But you know, cool, and it's a nice thing to have ahead of the Avatar set, certainly. So in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are on all of this news. Upcoming releases for the comics, you know, Mako comic under a week away. Then we're just a few weeks out from Ashes of the Academy. Omnibus edition for Team Avatar Treasury. Then especially, what are your thoughts on this Dark Horse Direct thing? I get it. It's not for me, but I also don't maybe see who it actually is for to a certain degree. I think there's a few misses in this one. Some of this Netflix Avatar news here. Do you have any thoughts on that? And of course, Avatar Squaroes deck boxes. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.